Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And as usual, I am your host, Larry Cox, and it's great to be here with you guys. You know, uh, lovely as always. I want to say hello to some people that are joined us in the room. Ethel Bland, great to have you. Danielle Munoz. Daniel, I'm going to mention something about Minnesota a little bit later in the show and about Minnesota's ethics code and a couple of school board members who have been uh, censured for doing some terrible things. And I'm going to let y'all know what those terrible things are. So, welcome, Alex McDonald. Alex and I had a show this week. I'm going to talk about that show and just tell you people need to go watch that. And then Bill Campbell, welcome, Cheryl Moulton, Charlotte Gellert, Joey Williams, Judy Bond, Gio Oden, Angela Esperero, Big Man 56. So yeah, guys, it's interesting week this week. Just wanted, Alex and I did our first show. Alex, I think it was you had mentioned it's been almost a year since you did a show on the This Weekend Rockdale channel, and you're right. When you have to do a show on that channel, it's usually because the shenanigans have hit an all-time high. And you've got to bring yourself out of local reporting retirement because it's just got that dire. Well, guys, I just want to say, I want to tell everybody, you'll need to go and watch that show. Al did a great job with playing the clips of the meeting, and we really did I think a good job highlighting the problems with this PFA, with the county. When it all comes to be said and done, we have nothing more than the same shenanigans we had back in 2018 with a $140 million project that's going to end up being a $220 million project. They just did what I referred to as an end run. They found another way to do those bonds without you, the citizens, voting on it, because you would have voted those down, and that's without saying. So, I wanted to mention that. I thought it was a great show. It's a great source of information. I recommend you guys to go and watch it. You can go watch it on This Week in Rockdale or This Week from Rockdale. You can go back and watch that recording. It was a good show, and I think it highlighted a lot of things that's going on. So, Danny, I want to talk a little bit about ethics violations. So, Minnesota has like the cream of the crop Board of Education ethics code that most of the nation actually go by. And from what I understand about the one we have here in Rockdale County, I think they've uh, uh, copied it mostly after that kind of system. So let me ask you, Danny, are you coming to Georgia for Christmas this year? Just wondering that. I'll get the answer as we're going. But yeah, I think there were two board members in Minnesota, and they were the district attorney assigned an attorney to investigate these terrible things that these people were doing. So I'm going to list the terrible things that they were doing. Okay, first of all, they were sometimes late for meetings. I don't agree with being late to meetings. Be early. 15 minutes early is on time. That's my rule. But be early to the meetings. Yeah, they were a little late to a few meetings. Okay. Okay, got you. You're incoming. So, okay, the second thing that they did that was just awful is they talked to teachers. Can you imagine? Members of the Board of Education talked to teachers. Then what was the next thing? Oh, the third terrible thing they did. You're not going to believe this. They talked to constituents. They actually discussed with the people who voted for them things about the school system. The third thing they did was they talked about the curriculum. They talked about what was being taught in the classroom. Now, I'm just telling you, this is some just terrible things that these people were doing, right? So what's the fourth thing they were doing? They spoke to state legislators. about where the funding and how the system was going to be funded without permission of the school superintendent and the bureaucratic school authority. They spoke to the state legislators without the permission of the school superintendent. Can you believe that? That they had the audacity to actually talk to teachers. They spoke to constituents about what was going on in the school system. They talked about what was being taught in our school system. And they spoke to legislators about how the school system was being funded. Now, guys, this is absolutely insane that when we have an ethics document that actually says um, that you as an elected official aren't allowed to do your job, but more importantly, that you as an elected official would sign such a ridiculous document. Now, you guys have heard me talking on this show the last couple of months about I would not sign a contract or an ethics agreement taking away my right to represent you, and I'm not going to. And this thing about it, when I'm elected, there should be a majority of the board that will be able to change these things on the schools on the Rockdale County School Board. Hopefully, there will be a majority, but I can't believe that there's not a majority of the board right now that won't change that ethics agreement that board members sign. First of all, I am not going to sign that nonsense. I will go into negotiations with that. Guys, it is just ridiculous. And this thing about it, I think like anything, people just sign what's thrown in front of them a lot of times, and they really don't pay attention to what they're signing. So, the big thing about these two school board members in Minnesota, the major thing they violated was the ethics agreement, because the ethics agreement stated that they had to get permission from the superintendent before they could talk to teachers, talk to constituents, talk about the curriculum, and talk to the legislature about funding. The school board members, by signing this ethics agreement, they gave away all of their abilities to actually represent the community, and they signed all of the authority over to an overpaid, underqualified bureaucrat. Now, that's just, it's crazy. And from what my research from this is, Minnesota has the most stringent board of ethics that's been created by their association that represents board members, the Board of Education. Well, look, guys, it's not really a membership. It's a board that represents school superintendents, not board members. That's just, point blank when you look at how this is written. And these Board of Educations that are giving these superintendents these contracts, and in their contracts, they give them all this authority over the board. It's totally ridiculous. So, the first thing we have to do, like I told you guys, if elected, going to have town halls. I'm going to have town halls. I'm going to talk to teachers. I'm going to talk to principals. I'm going to talk to board staff, because I'm not going to sign an ethics agreement that doesn't allow me to do that. I don't. I've actually talked to some legal counsel about some things and such. And from what I gather, as long as I do my documentation with the state, which is different documentation, as long as I meet those minimal requirements and sign these documents to take office, which has nothing to do with the county's ethics agreement, they can't stop me from taking office. Okay. But I am going to have to come to an ethics agreement, because the state does require that board members have an ethics agreement when they come on. But I'm not going to agree to an ethics agreement that makes me ask permission from the person that I'm their boss. The school board employs the school superintendent. I will not be asking the school superintendent permission to do anything. That task comes to you, the citizens. I work for the citizens, and the school superintendent works for the school board. There needs to be a change in direction here, people, where people can be censored and get in trouble for actually doing their jobs, talking to teachers, talking to constituents, talking about the curriculum, talking to state legislators about funding sources. And you're getting in trouble for that because you didn't ask permission for somebody that you have employed? That is totally crazy. That is absolutely insane. Danny, if you're still there, have you heard of these things? Because it happens here. I mean, Rockdale County has a similar agreement, and that's why none of the board members here do this, because they're not allowed to go out and talk about things they vote on. They sign that they'll act as a unity team and not be individuals. I'm not gonna sign that nonsense because if I win this election, I will be elected to represent the constituents. It is the people's school board. It's not the superintendent's school board. The way that we've got this drawn up ass backwards is the school superintendent is this dictator who runs amok and does anything they want and bosses everybody around. Guys, this is Soviet Union, North Korea, China nonsense that we've actually incorporated in a pretend democratic republic that we have. So it's crazy. Daniel, I think it mentioned. I think if I'm not mistaken, and I may be wrong, and I'll look it up and let you know later. I think Ridgeland. I think the Ridgeland School District. But when in the article I read, it actually it talks about Minnesota's actually ethics system, and it was their school board association, their state school board association, which had come up with this ethics agreement, ethics documentation, and that the majority of the Minnesota school districts have actually it's what they go by. So I think it was Richland or Ridgeland or something school district in Minnesota where these two excuse me two board members had been censured for doing what I considered their jobs. They actually did what the constituents want them to do. They said they were very popular in their school district, that the citizens supported them. The citizens would cheer them at board meetings, that they both were elected and reelected by wide margins. And because they were doing their job and they're popular, that they're being censored. But it comes down to me is how in the world would other elected officials, why do they team up and gang up and not actually want the responsibility of doing what they're supposed to do? So you have to look, are they getting something on the side? Are these elected officials participating in kickbacks? Are they participating in somehow financially benefiting from the system that's in place? And I have to say, the answer to me is always yes. When public officials go along with these kind of shenanigans, usually there's always financial gain behind it. There's usually always financial gratification. There's always gain. They're getting something from it, and that is my idea, my thought process of what's going on. So, when I run here in Rockdale County and I talk about doing these things, it'll be interesting if I'm in one of these forums and you've got all these other members, and I bet they'll get angry when I'm talking about this, and and they'll be in denial, and they'll say, well, that's the way the system works. You can't do anything different. Well, yeah, you can, because you're the board. You pass the rules. All you have to do is void that ethics agreement, and sign and come up with one that's more favorable to the board and doesn't give the superintendent authority over everybody and everything. Um, I think, does the superintendent need to have day-to-day operational authority? 1000%. The superintendent needs to have day-to-day operational authority, but the superintendent also uh, should take guidance and direction from the school board and from the community. 1000% that way also. Um, this is just ridiculous when I see something like this and I see what just the consequences that it has. Uh, it's just ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous. So I don't think that we can continue down this path. Um, we have to right this ship. Uh, I think we can now understand, once you see an article like this and you understand the dynamics we're dealing with, you can understand why um, taxes get out of control in these board of educations. You can understand why curriculum and and just what's going on gets out of control because there's no guidance. So it's absolutely crazy. It is absolutely ridiculous that these things happen. So, guys, I'm just telling you right now, we have to. Yeah, Danny, in the article, it actually mentioned that the teachers complained that they felt uncomfortable talking to school board members. They felt uncomfortable talking with school board members. Of course, they feel uncomfortable talking to school board teachers because they may be getting called out on not doing a good job. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, um, it comes down to being able to advocate for yourself at that point. Uh, we have to, as citizens, we've got to stand up for ourselves, and we have to elect the right people. So let's listen. If if we actually if those districts elected those responsible individuals by overwhelming margins, then yeah, the school teachers union is powerful because they spend a lot of money and give a lot of donations to politicians. But at the end of the day, you've got two individuals who win by overwhelming margins in their district. It sort of shows me where the true power is with the constituents, the people, and the voters. And those voters, they need to start voting people out. And we need to do that here in Georgia also, right? So this coming year, I hope some people challenge other board members so that we can, vote some of them out. Um, we need to do a little bit of change of, and the folks who decided to run against Justin and I run against a couple other people. Justin had just got appointed. He's not really an incumbent. He's somebody from the outside coming in. I would be somebody from the outside coming in, but I'm fine with being challenged and running a competitive campaign. It doesn't bother me one bit because I think that my message and what I want to do is unique. It's different, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for this board. I think it will be difficult for them to do a lot of rubber stamping and just go along and getting along, because I'm going to be on that board challenging things. Oh, I forgot one of the biggest things. My bad. There was actually a sixth thing that they actually investigated these two board members for. So apparently, the school, the superintendent required any question that was going to be asked at the board meeting had to be submitted prior to the board meeting. Well, as the board meeting would go on and these members, new things would come up, they would ask questions that weren't scripted. And it was upsetting the superintendent because he was being asked questions that he didn't have a chance to prepare for. So the sixth thing that they were in violation of were asking questions that they didn't pre-submit. to the school superintendent. Uh, and when things came up and they wanted to know something, they weren't supposed to ask an unscripted question. Can you believe that? I mean, that's totally insane. And anybody who knows me, if I'm somewhere and something comes up and something whatever and it perks my interest, I'm going to ask a question. I see Justin Kenny at the board meetings do that all the time. Justin asks questions that just comes up. I mean, because of the conversation that happens, because of the information submitted, there's no way that you're going to be able to know exactly every question you intend to ask. But this is, these are these crazy violations they got in trouble with. So they got censured, and I need to actually do a little more research because the article didn't mention what their precise censure was, what consequences came to these board members. But I'm sure there was a court order issued that said you can't do A, B, C, and D because you were in violation. Because again, let me just tell you, these two people signed that damn agreement. They signed that agreement most likely without reading it, knowing what they were signing. They signed it and sent it back. Never sign an agreement like that because when you sign something like that, you're signing away your rights to speak in public, signing away your rights to talk about decisions the school board has made, because they've got this unity thing that we act and vote. Whether we disagree, we act as a unit and we don't talk about it afterwards. BS. I don't agree with it. I'm talking about it. Talking about it till I'm blue in the face because you deserve to hear about it. You deserve to hear about it. And, we really need to be careful about what they have these closed door meetings about. Executive session. Executive session needs to be limited to very few things. And we need to make sure that another board member, if something is in executive session and it's in violation of the ethic of the executive session code that you've developed, then you immediately say, no, we have to stop this discussion. It needs to be kicked out to the general meeting. And that's up to board members to actually police themselves about that, to make sure they don't conduct business in private that should be conducted in public. Guys, I'm just telling you right now, this is, there have been former school board members who have told me they've been threatened with such action when they were on the board. And it all comes down to you signed an agreement that you shouldn't have signed. You should have negotiated. And I intend to negotiate my ethics agreement. I'm not just going to sign something that's thrown out to me that says, this is what you got to do. Not doing it, not happening. And hopefully through my negotiations that we can actually throw out the existing ethics agreement and come up with a new ethics agreement that empowers the board and actually makes the superintendent accountable to the Board of Education and to the citizens of Rockdale County. That's what my campaign and candidacy is all about. My candidacy is about giving you, the citizens of Rockdale County, a true voice. This should be a partnership. What can we afford as far as it comes to education in this county? What can the taxpayers afford? Because right now, the school superintendent can just take what he wants and there's no consequence for him. No consequence whatsoever. And they do it through these ethics agreements, through these code of ethics agreements. They silence your voice. They silence the voice of the Board of Education. Enough is enough. It has to stop. Modern day Boston Tea Party, guys. Modern day Boston Tea Party. We need to elect myself, Justin Kenny. We need to elect some people to some other seats. These folks have been in there a couple of terms. They've been in there long enough. I believe in term limits, right? So, they've served long enough. It's time to get some new folks in there. Let's get new folks in there. Let's get new ethics agreements. Let's have you be represented on that school board finally. Let's let you, the citizens, have a voice, because actually, at the end of the day, it is your school board. It's not the superintendent's school board. It's time to send this superintendent packing back to Henry County We don't want a superintendent that doesn't live in Rockdale County. If you're going to be the superintendent of Rockdale County Schools, your ass needs to live in Rockdale County. That's what I firmly believe. So, folks, uh, I'm just out, I'm just really not happy with what's going on and how things are shaped up in this county. From the Board of Commission, the Board of Education, and the City of Conyers. We're not being represented fairly. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. We just need to do what's right. So tonight, I'm going to let you guys off of here. I think I've talked long enough, been on here about 30 minutes, but you know what? I think the message is hard and strong. You know where I stand, and you know how I represent you. The campaign's getting ready to kick off here after the first of the year. Going to need each and every one of you's help. Vote Larry, votelarrycox.com /home. Go there, read, check the website out. But that's just what we need to do. Well, Charlotte, Janie's not up for re-election. I'm not talking about Janie or Sandra right now. They're not up for re-election. You have three people up for re-election, in my opinion. Justin is not coming. He's on the ballot. Justin needs to get through, but you've got Pam Brown, Heather Duncan, and Keita Palmer. You've got those individuals are incumbents. They don't need to go back. Nothing personal against you. You just don't represent the citizens, and you just don't represent me the way I think you should. So I'm not going to vote for you, and then be honest, they're not going to vote for me. And that's fine. I'm not going to vote for them. They're not going to vote for me, but we need to vote for other people. So guys, I'm going to let you off here. Good night. Not certain if I'm going to have a show next week or not. I'll post about that later in the week. I've got some, I'm actually going to an event in Atlanta. So I think right now I will not be having a show on Christmas Eve. We'll be back after New Year's. Thank everybody for watching the show this year. Thank you for your just being here. So I want to just thank you all for that. And I look forward to seeing you after the first of the year. Thanks. Good night, and see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.